Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keeping It Real with America's Supermom. I'm excited for my next guest. We actually chat very often during the week on LinkedIn audio, or I love watching her LinkedIn lives. As I have been more active on this platform, she has some very thought provoking rooms and questions. And for me, as someone who has overcome depression and anxiety and things of that nature, I believe the power of the question really helps us to change and be on a different mindset and pathway for success. So I am excited to have with me today Toni. And Toni, I just feel like you're somewhat of somebody that I have known for years, even though we've only talked on Zoom maybe 2 times, but we talk regularly in the rooms that you host or in rooms that I have as well. So, welcome to the show, and please take a few moments to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I really, really appreciate you having me here. Yes, we do. We talk quite a lot, don't we? I've got to know you through those conversations and those interactions. So it's been an absolute pleasure. So I'm a critical friend and a business mentor. And so I work with C-suite leaders specifically in social impact, social justice, and social mobility spaces. And what that means in layman's terms, that my clients typically are working or serving those that are considered as maybe vulnerable groups. So special educational needs, mental health, homelessness, that's my background is predominantly criminal justice, specialist education and care. And so that's my backbone really. And I just want to share my 30 years of experience of being out in the trenches, being out in the fields. Some of them, they sometimes feel like battlefields. Every wound and scar has a story that I want to share of what I learned in that moment. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. But I help C-suite leaders in social impact, social justice, social mobility, navigate change and crisis. And when they're going through change and crisis, they need a critical friend. And what I do is I bring that learning 360 degrees back to people that are starting out in business. And I want to help them on their way.
I love that. And so you have the term as being a critical friend, so I think this is that's something that's innovative. That's not a term that you hear every day. So talk to us about, just in a common world with a lot of things that people do the same, the fact that you would even have that term, how did that come about?
Because it is what I am. And even on places like LinkedIn, I'm not afraid to use the term. I know that no one's ever going to search for a critical friend, so I'm not going to come up in any search results. But that doesn't worry me at all, because that's what I am. I'm a critical friend, and that is somebody who, in times of need, will really tell you as it is, not belittle you, give you some really, really good advice, impartial advice, but they really want the best outcomes for you. And so we'll give you different aspects that you can consider what this issue is, what this issue is that you're going through, and help you on your way, help you to think about the things you need to think about. Yeah. And you mentioned earlier on about questioning. So questioning is a real good way to do that. And I'm always asking questions all the time.
So
One, because I'm always learning, and two, because I want people to learn too. So always asking questions.
I love that because, in a world today where everyone wants to do the same thing that everybody's doing, making sure you post on LinkedIn, post on Instagram, TikTok, all these different social media platforms alone, where they feel that, we have to be present and consistent and things of that nature. And a lot of times there is a fear around being different, having something that's a little out of the norm. Like you said, you feel like you might not be found if someone searches the term. So what is it that you do to help you build that muscle of standing out and being unique?
Just by being me. I've just got this quote that I use, and it's this: it is so much easier to be yourself when you are not trying.
Mm,
Shall
love
I say
that.
that one again?
Say that again.
It
For the
is.
people
So,
that weren't listening.
yeah, it's so much easier to be yourself if you're not trying.
Yeah.
And because I used to do some weekly sessions. Lots of people used to come, and you know, I used to always do just be myself. I just realized, look, Tony, just be yourself and it'll be fine. And I remember years ago, and I think I've spoken about this story previously, but I remember years ago, I was in an audience. I was given an audience to speak, and I was a keynote at a particular conference. And one of the things that happened was that a couple of days before, I was going over what I was going to say and everything, and it didn't feel right. It felt right when I wrote it, but it didn't feel right a couple of days before. And the morning I looked at it again and I thought, no, I'm just going to be me. And so I went out there and I was me, 100% me, very authentic and very real.
Mm-hmm.
And, I got standing ovation. It was very well received.
Mm.
And I actually came away from there thinking, why was I trying
Mm-hmm.
to be or do something else when it was me that they wanted?
Love that.
And I
And I
got,
think so many people forget about that. They have
yeah,
the pressures of, you mentioned that you're speaking. And so it's like, oh, I want everybody to walk away with feeling this type of way. Or, we start studying the organization and things like that. And we can kind of pile on the pressure ourselves without anybody saying anything.
absolutely. And that was the best one that I'd done. I'd done a few previously for this particular organization, but that was the one that got the best response. And I thought,
Mhm.
what was I was trying. I didn't need to try. And that's where that quote came from. So,
Mhm.
I just encourage people, because even when I think about the words like potential, I'm not really
Mhm.
a favor, I don't really like that particular word, because for me, and it could be different for other people, it implies that, you're going to grow into something. It's somewhere else.
Mhm.
But I look at it from the point of view that it's within you already. We need
Mhm.
to find it. So I don't see that as potential. I see that as, let's find this bit of gold. Let's dig deep for it, because it's in there somewhere,
Mm.
or
Mhm.
something that you've already got, but you haven't found. Something that you've already got that you're going to polish off and develop. So for
Love
me,
that.
I don't really see it like that. I see it as, something that is already there that, yeah,
I
you
love
come
that.
back and find it. Come back and find. Let's dig deep for it.
I
Yeah.
love that. It's reminds me of a conversation I had with a connection earlier this week where I had posed a question about, what message do you want to share with the world? And he said that he wanted to talk about freedom, right? And I thought, it's so funny that resonated with me because we start out free, I believe, and then we go and chain ourselves to what we feel society thinks we should be, our relationships,
Mhm.
friendships, and we travel on this journey to get back to where we first started. So I love that you said that because it's already inside of us. And
Mhm.
we get lost, by searching and trying to find what we already have in other places. So I love that. So, what is it that you do in your daily routine that helps you to show up? You do a lot of things, just on LinkedIn alone. And I know that's not all that you do with what you've said with being a critical friend. So, how do you juggle everything? What's your daily routine like?
Well, I'm super organized, super, super organized, very methodical. In fact, I've got lists for everything, and yeah, I I think the best way for me to phrase this is I love the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule for me is putting 20% effort in and getting 80% result. So what I try to do, I'm always trying to look for what's that 20% that's going to make that difference. How can I put that 20 in to get 80%? And I bet you didn't know you were going to do maths today, Michelle, but if you put 20% in and get 80% out, by the time you put in 5 lots of 20 for your 100%, you're going to get a 400% return. So I use that as a measure in a lot of things that I do in my life, whether it's relationships, friendships, business. If I'm putting 80% in and getting 20%, something's going wrong. So that's a good measure for me. The other thing is that I'm meticulously organized, and the way that I balance my my diary is I have everything that's color coded. Business, pleasure, health, and they're all different colors. All different colors. So when I open my diary, I want to see all this rainbow of colors coming to me. If there's not enough yellow, then I need to put a splash of yellow in there. Now, one of the things that, and this is a real business basic, but this is one of the things that I learned a few years ago, that when I used to have a hard copy diary, I used to have, an A4, one day per page. And it would have all these appointments. And so what I would be tempted to do is fill all these appointments in and turn over the page, all these appointments again for all the week. I realized that was not the way to go. So what I'd done was I started to look at a week to view. So when I see a week to view, I can balance out. If Monday's busy, I can ease up on Tuesday. But when you can't see the whole week and what the whole week looks like, so you're constantly chasing your tail. So ultimately, I do that, because even though it seems that I'm very busy. Yes, I am very busy, but I also take 2 days off in the week. So I work on Monday, I take Tuesday off. I work on Wednesdays, I take Thursday off. I work Friday.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's about being organized, having a balance. I don't try and fill every single gap with everything. I know me, if I go flat out for 2 days, then I'm no good to anybody the third day. Absolutely. I know that.
I love that. Now,
when people try to squeeze in my diary on that third day, I say, look, listen, Michelle, I'm not even going to be any good to me, much less you.
I love that. Being able to say no. I mean, that's another topic we could go into. But back to the 80-20, because there are people listening that have no concept of being able to figure out what is that 20% that they need to be doing. So when it comes to whether your relationships or your business, how do you know what that 20% is? What is the formula that you use?
I mean, if you're gonna, like, I put a post out recently about your network. Who have you got in your network? So, for example, there's lots of people on LinkedIn that are trying to get business out of it, starting up with their business, or just trying to get going. So ultimately, what I said in there is that have 3 key pieces. So people that can help you, people that you can help, and people that you can collaborate with. And you want a tiny little sprinkling, of my fairy dust, which I haven't mentioned so far, Toni's fairy dust. You want a little sprinkling of people that, are your supporters, that will buy into what you do, love your message, So when you think about that and you get the balance right, that's your 20%. And you're going to get an 80% return. So if you imagine that all your network is full of influencers, they're going to help you, they're going to educate you, but they may not be your client, so you're not going to get any clients. So, but the other side of it is, if you have everybody in your network that you can help. They may potentially be your clients, but you're not going to grow. You're gonna do your bit with them, and they're gonna shoot ahead, and you're gonna be left wondering, like a certain person in Wonderland, what the hell happened?
So true.
So you got to kind of, and then you've got to balance it with people that can add value to your service. So that for me is a 20% maybe. No, it's 20%. If you've got a friend, that is what do they do for you? What do they bring to you? How do they add value in your life? And vice versa. Did you see what I mean? I was speaking to somebody one time, this is a few years back, and I remember this conversation. I said, how's business been? And he said to me, well, it's great this year, but last year wasn't so great. And I said, well, what did you change? What did you do? And he said, I don't know. And I thought, what a waste. Because if you knew what you changed or what you'd done differently, you could do more of it.
Yeah.
And if you do more of it,
that's so true.
Then you're going to get more result. You're going to get your 400%.
I love that. And, it's being present with you. It's back to what you said in the very beginning. Knowing you, knowing your numbers, knowing whatever it is that you're doing, and leaving that comparison out of it. So going back to knowing when to say no, I love that analogy that you said about the 2 days and the third day, hey, I'm not going to be any good to myself or to you.
That's right.
Give people some tips on how you say no, because a lot of people feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have this opportunity again, or I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I want to help everybody. Talk to us about no, because I think that's important.
So how do I say no?
No. That's I love it.
There is no other way to pretty it up. I must admit, when I first started, it was, is this a paid or voluntary? Are you asking me in a paid or voluntary capacity? I've written scripts for people, that I've worked with that they should read out. But ultimately, you want to know, if you think about that 80-20, for example, you want to know if you're going to put 20% of your effort in there to get an 80% return, or if this is an 80%. So when you think about that, that will help you steer you. Also, if you know what your figures are, if you're starting out very early in business, for example, and you know your figures, you know that you need to get to a certain amount by the end of the year. Revenue, turnover, you've got your target for the month, you've got your target for the week. It becomes easier too. Because you know that actually that's not going to get me anywhere nearer to my goal. That's not going to get me any nearer to my destination. So it's a no from me. When people ask me sometimes if I want to collaborate, if I'm not open to collaboration, I will say I'm not open to collaborations at the moment. When I am, I'll let you know. I'm not open to pro bono work at the moment. I've filled my quota. When you've replenished your budget, let me know. When I'm open again, I'll let you know. And people will respect you. What I'm finding as well is around money, if you're a startup, sorry, why have we gone to startups? Is that, but actually it's around that money piece, isn't it? The feeling that, of security. Will people want what you've got? Will they, will they like it? You tend to want to do things free. I've got, a client that I used to work with that used to give away everything for free. Why? If you give everything for free, what is left for people to pay for?
Yeah, I love that.
Well, that's right. It's so And that's the thing about it. And I mean, I know that my husband says I've got such an attitude, you know, and I'm such a diva. And I guess in a way I am, but what it does is it also brings humor as well. It
Mm-hmm.
brings humor to a tense situation, you know, and I
Mm-hmm.
have no problem saying to, you know, in fact, I said to somebody recently that why have we started talking about money? This conversation get to money, Lachelle. And I said to somebody that monetization is a great encourager.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
Because
you know, it tells a lot about a person, how committed they are to the project. You know,
that's
are
right.
they gonna stick with it? You know, anybody will say anything if it doesn't cost them anything.
Well, and that's just it. And there are 3 rules
Mm-hmm.
to engaging with me. And I think it's really important that people have boundaries and rules. And
Mm-hmm.
they are pay on time, be on time, and be committed. I
Mm.
will do the rest. Once I see those 3, it's a real good foundation, because it can't be 2 out of the 3 or 1 out of the 3. It has to be 3 out of the 3. And I'm happy to say, not for me, thank you. If
Mm-hmm.
you're committed and you're on time to the appointments, but you can't pay me on time, I'm going to lose interest, because I can't put my 100% into you worrying about whether you're going to pay me, because it's going to damage the results. It's going to affect the results. It's going to affect my
Mm-hmm.
thinking. I'm not going to be able to put everything in. And I know I want to put everything in. So,
I
you
love
know,
that.
if you're not on time, that means that you're not respecting my time. That
Mm-hmm.
means, do you even respect yourself?
Mm-hmm.
It will just annoy the hell out of me. So therefore,
Mm-hmm.
let's just do, you stay there and I stay here. You stay. That's all right.
I love that, you know, because I tell this to my daughters, you know, when you're thinking about a spouse, for example, none of my daughters are married yet, but it is just the mindset. You don't get into a relationship and then figure out, you know, what you're looking for. You
That's
have to
right.
have your standards ahead of time, you know. So I love that you say that, because this actually helps us to understand if something is really an opportunity or if it's simply a distraction. You know, everything can look good, but you need to go through the litmus test or filter or something to make sure that it's right for you. So I love that.
And I think the thing is, what as well, is just generally speaking, you've got to have a destination and a sub destination.
Mm-hmm.
It's like getting in your car and starting the engine, and
Yeah.
you have no code for the sat nav because you don't know
Mm-hmm.
where you're going. You're going to drift and drift and drift, aren't you? Oh, there's
Mm-hmm.
an interesting road there on the left. Let me go down there. Yeah.
So
But when you're
true.
in your sat nav, it needs to be intentional. It needs to be purposeful, unless, of course, you want to just drive around, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get
Mm-hmm.
in there and you start the engine, you need to know that this is my destination. And for me, I want the quickest route. Now, the sat nav will give you the quickest route, the scenic route, the route without the motorways, the tolls. You pick.
Mm-hmm.
But I want the quickest route.
Love that. I mean, this has been a great conversation. Okay. I cannot believe that we have come to the end of the time together. So tell everybody, you know, what do you have going on in LinkedIn or anything else? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm across all the platforms, Toni McClelland, First Life Group. Yeah, they could just reach out to me. But ultimately, I think one of the things that I'm driving at the moment is future-proofing business, navigating crisis and future-proofing business. And whether you're a startup or a more established organization. And so this thing about compassionate business and compassionate leadership is one of the things that I use as a tool to approaching change and crisis. It's helped me through change and crisis. It's helped me to navigate conflict. It has kept me safe. It is a common denominator. And I feel that it is one of the things that can future-proof your business moving forward beyond 2030. So there's lots on on the agenda of business, established business owners. So much going on with DEI, corporate social responsibility, sustainable development, environmental, social and governance agendas. Well, what this does is it brings it all together and makes it really, really easy. And because I've been in some of those positions, I was sitting thinking, well, actually, if only there was a service that done this, or if only there was a service done that. So it gave me a real opportunity to be able to fill some of those gaps. And now I'm on the other side, I'm supporting and helping those people in those organizations to navigate their crisis and, you know, build the change. So yeah, people can reach out to me. Happy to have communication with anyone that feels that they need some help.
I love that. And, you know, future proofing your business, you know, such a trailblazer you are. I love it. So I guess the final words for you, I would love to ask is, what advice can you give to the audience about being a trailblazer, doing something different, you know, really solving those problems?
I think the main thing I would say, which kind of captures this whole, is just do some self-awareness. Over the last few years and the pandemic, it's really kind of made me aware of who I am, what I like, what I don't like, what I can tolerate. I started to dig deep. And I think that everyone really needs to do that exercise, challenge their beliefs, challenge their thinking. You know, where did I get this belief from? Is it mine, or have I adopted it from someone else? But you've got to really be the change, because everybody wants change, yet no one wants to change. But if we just change our little meter around us, then, you know, we can expand out from there. And I think that that's the main piece, really. But just be yourself. It's so much easier. And the other quote that I've got is the fact that there's one thing that we can all qualify to be.
And what is that?
And that is ourselves.
Love that. Love that.
Well, that is the one thing that we can all be.
Absolutely.
Aspire to be like someone else, or, you know, we can look at these people and say, yeah, they're great, but actually you can qualify to be you.
Love that.
And
That is so good. Well, thank you so much, Toni, for all of your insight. I could talk for hours on the topics that we have brought up, but I encourage everybody to reach out to follow Toni on LinkedIn. She's always got great dynamic rooms going over just many of these topics that we've just kind of sprinkled into the interview. So I encourage you to reach out. And again, Toni, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, and for allowing me to share some Toni's fairy dust with your listeners and your followers. And I just wanted to just take this opportunity to say thank you for all that you're doing yourself, you know, to make a difference in the world. So thank you, Michelle.
Oh, well, we appreciate all of you guys joining us for this conversation. Again, reach out if you have any questions, put them in the comments. But we have really enjoyed this time with you, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.